Assalamu alaikum dear students, and welcome to the 73rd session of the Distance Learning Program Current Affairs Newspaper Roundup session. I am your host Shahrukh Haider, and today we're going to see the massive and huge protests that are breaking out in India by the farmers of India. What is the rationale behind that? What is the reasons behind that? What are the impacts, and what kind of future can we envision from it? Because that's a huge domestic challenge and a crisis for the Indian government, Indian state and society. So first of all, let's look at the facts. So much of northern India and the farmers in northern India have come out into protests in much of northern India's major cities, especially the capital Delhi, in the last 2 months. Hundreds of thousands of farmers have marched onto Delhi as well, and they have clashed with police and law enforcement agencies, and these agencies have used the baton charge, tear gas, water cannons, and in some cases other weapons has been used by both the sides, and the protests have turned violent in some cases as well. So the protests have emerged as a major domestic challenge to the very stability of the BJP-led Modi government in Delhi, and the farmers have refused to back down, and they have ascertained that they will not move and end their protest unless their demands are met, and they are ready to have a complete siege against the government for the next 6 months. Moreover, there are fears of the spread of the coronavirus due to these protests as well, because India has become one of the largest hotspots of the coronavirus pandemic, and the Indian government is faltering to contain the spread. Even though India is the largest producer of the COVID-19 vaccine, it still will not be able to vaccinate its population that is vulnerable to the coronavirus at least in the next 2 years. So let's look at the reasons. Why are the farmers protesting so vehemently in India? Well, the Modi government passed 3 important new laws, which were basically agricultural laws that would substantially deregulate the agriculture industry in India. Now, you must remember that India is a nation of 1.4 billion people, and it has one of the largest agriculture industry in the world, which employs nearly 50% of the total labor force, domestic labor force in India. So any agricultural policies will have dramatic impacts on the entire state, society and the population of India. So by deregulating the agricultural sector, what the government has done is basically left the farmers to fight for themselves. And one of the main things that the government has sought to end within the agricultural protections that were in place before these laws is the market support price, which is a minimum support price for each kind of crop which the government sets, and which the buyers, the markets, the mandi traders cannot buy any produce from the farmers lesser than that price. So that is government regulation. But these laws are attempt to end the market support price, the MSP, and remove other important protections for the farmers as well. So what basically is going to happen once these laws come into action is that the agriculture industry is going to be deregulated. The mandis, where majority of the trade of food supplies and crops happen, they're going to become secondary, and majority of the trade of the crops is going to happen on informal, out of the market, deregulated spaces. That is going to open up huge space for the big corporate farming companies and agriculture companies to eat majority of the profit in the agriculture sector and dictate crop prices, which would be the most detrimental thing for the farmers, especially because the farmers of India have been demanding more protections, higher incomes from the government for the past 3 decades. But what the government has done instead is the exact opposite of that, which is why the farmers are so angry. They feel violated, and they feel betrayed by their own government, and this would lead to further exploitation of the farmer class and a further reduction in their household incomes, despite the fact that right now the farmers in India are among the poorest farmers in the world, and substantially their incomes are dropping to the extent that rural poverty within the farmer class is quite high, and it has led to thousands of suicides by the farmers as well. So as we speak now, the agitation of the farmers' protest is actually heating up and threatening the stability of the government right now. The farmers have started to march on government buildings. For example, only yesterday, the farmers marched on the historic Red Fort in Delhi, which is considered to be the seat of the government, an important, symbol of power. And they actually hoisted the flag of the Khalistan movement upon the minaret of the Red Fort, which is a very, surprising thing, because this points to the dangers, the larger dangers of the farmers' protest, which is majority Sikh people from the northern Punjab, Indian Punjab, and Haryana provinces. So the Khalistan movement might hijack the farmers' protest to demand for the independence of the Khalistan provinces, which is Haryana and Punjab, and the creation of a Sikh nation state, which is a movement that has been going on in the northern provinces of India for the last 30 years and have proved to be a major hurdle to national integration and led to a lot of internal instability in India. Recently, for the past 5 years, the government of India was successful in clamping down this movement and substantially reducing its scope and influence in northern India. But once again, the farmers' movement has re-emerged and strengthened the Khalistan movement. The international reactions towards the farmers' protests in India are very important. So, for example, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau actually criticized the Indian government for its violent handling of the farmer protest and encouraged the Indian government to bring these people to the dialogue and listen to their terms and conditions and agree to their just terms and conditions, wherein the Indian Foreign Office actually blamed the Canadian Prime Minister for meddling in Indian internal affairs, which is a mantra that the Indian administration has used multiple times over the past years, especially when it comes to the Indian occupied Kashmir. And finally, Pakistan's ex-ISI chief Asad Durrani